Thanks for turning up so promptly. That's brilliant. Welcome to the Pike Clinic today. I'm ably assisted by a number of people. Paul Chilton, who has been predator fishing for most of his life. In fact, he came out of his mother's womb with a pike rod, apparently. Jack is from the Angling Trust and also a very experienced predator and pike angler. The purpose of the day is to be really informal but informative. So what we want you to get out of today is whatever you want to get out of the day, but one of the takeaways we must have is that you're able to handle pike correctly, because unfortunately only last month we had 4 fatalities on the lake. Presumably, not definitely, presumably the pike were caught and not very well handled. So if nothing else, take that away from today. Because there's quite a lot of us, I'd ask you to kind of discipline yourselves to split yourselves into groups. We can have a go at fly fishing up here for casting, then we'll go down to the lake and you can have a look at my flies, my lures, ask any questions, and if I don't know the answers, I'll ask these guys to answer for you. Jack is covering mainly dead baiting today, and he's on the first pegs. As you walk down that side, you'll see Jack and his setup. And he has an artificial pike, which won't bite, but will give you a really good feel for how to point it, how to handle it, how to take the hooks out, because we don't use these great big gaff things anymore. When I was a kid, we all had spring-loaded gaffs that broke the pike's jaw, but at least you didn't get hurt. And then beyond that, we've got Paul, who will be covering all aspects. He's going to have some lure rods set up, he's going to have some dead bait rods set up, but he can talk to you about live baiting. He can talk to you about any aspect of either pike or perch. Or zander, fishing today. So today is about learning and asking questions and trying to get as much out of the day as you can. It's not like the float clinic at Smallford where I expect you to catch 5 barbel each by the end of the day. If we catch a pike at all, we've done really well. It's that kind of fishing, but at least you'll go away forearmed with some ideas, some thoughts, and again, it's a learning process. So if you know better, if you know stuff, if you've used something, we're all learning all the time. So don't feel afraid, to say, well, what I do is, because everybody is learning all the time with fishing. There is teas and coffees up here. There's hot water in the flasks. There's cups. There's teas, coffees. There's biscuits. So if you get thirsty, come up. I would ask you to reuse your cup, because I've got 24 cups, because I thought I had more and I didn't. You could also write your name on the cup if that helps. Do I need to? And most importantly, Andy is filming today because an awful lot of people couldn't come but do need to know how to handle pike. So we're going to put that on the club website. So if any bailiff sees anybody doing something that they're not quite so sure of, they say, just go and have a look at the video on the website. So I would ask you just be mindful of where Andy is and the camera is, that you don't block his view. He'll try not to be too abusive if you are. And as I say, we're going to kick off now. Feel free to stay as long as you like. If you feel you've got enough out of the day at 11 o'clock, that's fine, that's lovely. If you want to stay till 2 or beyond and go fishing, that's great too. If you have any questions about Lacey, we've also got a Lacey Bridge bailiff here. Where are you? Or is he still up at the top car park? Kevin's from Lacey, and I also bailiff at Smallford. So if you've got any questions about Smallford or Lacey, feel free to ask that. Any questions so far, or is it all clear as mud?
In terms of general fishing here,
yeah.
The first time I came, I was kicked off, didn't have the right kit.
Right.
So is there a minimum standard of kit you need to fish here?
I have on my phone, and again meant to print out, all of the club rules about pike fishing, but essentially it's barbless or micro barb, minimum £15 breaking strain, no live baiting, dead baits, we're limited to the dead baits that you can use, or limited to the live baits that you can use on the rivers, but you can't live bait at Smallford. So I will circulate to everybody my summary of all of the pike and predator rules. As I say, I did mean to print them out, but time got the better of me. So I will.
Do you know what you was kicked off for?
Too small a net, probably too light a line. And I went with my grandson, we were sharing an unhooking net.
Yeah.
So you obviously need to have a good mat each.
Yeah, or one rod between you.
Yeah. Two rods, one unhooking.
Yeah, so there is a minimum size for nets. I think it's 36, but I wouldn't say so.
Is it not 42?
Yeah,
Is it 42?
It's 42 for carp and pike. I think it's 36 over here.
I think it's
42.
It's 26 for Martha.
Yeah, 26 for here.
I'd always aim for 42 inch, kind of comfortably basing, even if it's a jack or a 20. Go for something bigger, and you're not caught short and having to hand land them or chin them out, which is kind of the last thing you want to do.
Smaller net as a second one.
Right.
I wouldn't even bother.
I will read
I'd
out.
go for a rubberised net, and then
I'll ask about that later.
I would. Yeah.
I'll read out my notes. Only barbless crush barbs or micro barbed hooks. Treble hooks may only have one barbed hook. No live baiting on any club, lake or Smallford. Live fish can be taken no more than 5 metres unless in a proper live bait with aerators. Use a purpose designed aerated container. The maximum size for live bait is 5 inches. Limited to minnows, dace, rudd, roach, bleak and gudgeon. Pike, not in keep nets. We have broken that rule for the sake of today with the club's permission. Minimum line breaking strain is £15. Trebles are not allowed with live baits. Only one hook, which can be micro barb. Pike season is 1st of October to March 31st. Fall season in rivers takes precedence. Minimum net for pike at Smallford 36 inches. Under 13-year-olds must fish with a senior member and with one rod only. Those were the notes that I took from our club rules and regulations. Paul, Jack, if you want to... Mr. Lisi. So if anybody's got questions about Lisi, feel free to ask you. Okay, so disperse as you would prefer.
Right, it says record, so assume it is. Oh, the seagull's just taken off. Ah. Okay. Should see your float somewhere here. That one. Where is it? Oh yeah. Oh, did that just bob?
The right hand one you're looking at.
That one over that one. Well, it did in my viewfinder. It could have been the pixels doing things. But I definitely saw it do something, but there's no ripples off it, so I think it's just what this thing's showing me. Oh, wrong way. How close can we get? It'd be great if it would go under this now, wouldn't it? Fat chance.
You just wanted to sailing across the top.
Yeah, but the chance of having it switched on at the right time.
We'll be watching these and that alarm will just drop off. It'll be that one that goes over there.
Yeah. You can't be in all the places all at once, especially with this thing. Yeah. I'm sure if they do a fishing program, they've got at least 3 or 4 cameramen in different angles, in different places.
Bag of 20 full charge batteries. do coaching, work with clubs, fisheries, organisations who want to kind of get kids into fishing. My main bag is predator fishing. Kind of been pike fishing since I was about 4. My dad was kind of on the committee with the PAC for a number of years, and yes, I've kind of just grown up doing it. So when I get to this time of year is when I want to go fishing, but we haven't really had the temperatures I wouldn't have said, which are kind of conducive to pike fishing at the moment. So we just need a little bit of drop off, to be honest.
It's going to drop next week, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm in Scotland next week, so that'll be nice, hopefully. So rod, 10 foot. I use 10 foot because I do a bit of boat fishing, so just managing a 10 foot rod over a 12 foot rod is a little bit easier. A Shimano 10,000 bait caster, so it gives the option of a bait runner for when I'm float fishing, obviously then fishing on the anti-reverse with my ledger, just so there's as least resistance as possible. Braid wise, I go 50 pound braid. Shimano Power Pro is kind of the normal stuff I go for. See, some of the Pike Pro stuff's a little bit too thick, Shimano one's a little bit nicer. Running straight through here, I've set it to the depth here, so you've got just a stopping bead or a float stop down to a bead. Pike Pro dumpy slider. It may look quite big and clunky, but they're actually quite light, so resistance wise not going to do too much. Rather large run ring. I just try and minimise resistance as best I can.
Zoom in on
Is that just a clip on there?
Yeah. So just with a big run ring, rubberised around the side, so you're minimising resistance as best you can, just to a 2 ounce lead. Bead, rubber bead and a ledger boom, just to kind of kick that bait out and away from the rest of the line. Down to a 75 pound AFW swivel, link swivel, and then I've got a 60 pound wire trace treble. These are size 4s. Can go down to size 6s depending on the bait size. Size 4s, size 6s are kind of your usual ones you want to use, depending on kind of like the size bait you want to use. So if you're looking at using a herring or a mackerel, I would use size 4s. If then you're looking at using small things like sardines, small lengths of eel, small lengths of lamprey, sprats, then you probably want to drop down a size to the size 6s, just to match the bait really. But it's kind of fairly crude setup in terms of its wire trace anyway on both, so you're going to get pickups on larger hooks. It doesn't usually make too much of a difference. As a general rule, say if we keep changing over my trace, I'll go with size 4s, just because I like to chop and change my baits if I've got a good selection on me. Everyone happy with that? So in terms of just kind of setting up now, so I'm going to set this deliberately over depth to kind of show you what I'm looking for when I'm kind of casting and setting up. Take the trace off for the moment. Okay, so if you guys want to kind of come over this way a little bit. So I've set this kind of deliberately over depth to kind of show you what I'm looking for when I'm looking to get a float. So at the moment there, I've got no real idea or indication where that stop knot's hit, because it hasn't kind of kicked the float up, the float hasn't gone under and then bobbed back up, and the float is lying kind of dead flat. Obviously I know I'm on bottom, but I don't really know where that stop knot is. Even if I lift the line up like so, as you can probably just about see it there, just above the float, it's still a few feet off where I want to be. My general rule is when I'm float fishing, I like to have the float semi-cocked if possible. Mainly just for bite indication, because as soon as that bait gets picked up or there's a pike around it, I'm going to get a little bit of notice on that float, whether it just flutters slightly, yet the ripples coming out from the bottom of the float. So what I will do from there, if I'm over depth, I'm just looking to shorten it up until I kind of hit what I'd kind of call a sweet spot. This takes a few minutes to do. So as you can see there, you saw where that stop knot kicked against the float. So I know now, if I just lift that rod up, I'm bang on. So that float is just lying on bottom nicely, that bait's on bottom, float slightly cocked. Okay, so my bite indication now is going to be quite, look, I'm barely moving that, and I get the ripples straight away. Okay, so that for me will be set up absolutely bang on. Could drop it down maybe another inch, half an inch, just to be really kind of particular with it. I mean, this is the sort of thing I would do as soon as I got here, was both float rods, obviously that's in a different position to this, so I'm going to find slightly different depth potentially. So there, that lead is not quite on bottom because you can see where the float's up right. So I'm only about an inch out. just to kind of maximise my bite indication. So I'll move that down an inch. You should just see it kick. There you go. Look at that. See how that's sitting them really nice and diagonal. So any kind of notification that I'm going to get, similar on that float, exactly the same. I'm going to get that nice little bit of indication straight away if the pike is either moving around it or has just picked it up. Alright? Put a trace back on that in a minute and put it back out. Put that back out in a moment. I'll put that back out now and then I'll show you my running leisure setup. Has anybody got any questions so far about float leisure setup? With the running leisure setup, similar with your kind of carp fishing, try and make sure you're reeling back tight to the lead, because what you'll find is you've got a lighter bait, so when you cast it out you will then need to let the lead hit the bottom and then reel back nice and slowly, and what you'll feel is that you'll feel that buffer bead hit your lead area, and then you'll know you're tight. Because if you leave that without it and you're not up tight to the lead, that you're giving that pike more time before you get any kind of bite indication. Okay, so this is right tight up to the lead. Usual rule of thumb is to try and make sure that your rod tip is pointing roughly where your bait is. If you have it at an angle and it's pulling, you're giving that opportunity of resistance, like a quiver tip, and that small bit of resistance might cause them to drop it, depending on the water you're on, depending how finicky the pike are, that kind of thing. And then very much here, so backbiter alarm, I've turned it anti-reverses round, and then when this will pull free, and then it's free just to move off and take the line with it. Okay, I'll bring this in and show you. So those of you who kind of carp fish, there's not too much difference between what you're doing setting up with this. So this is very much just a usual running ledger rig, and all you're doing is swapping over your kind of hook length from where you'd have a boilie, and you're just replacing it with a wire trace. Okay? It's got a little bit of tangle. Ledger boom's not doing its job then.
What do they call that?
Well, tangle? This is a cock up, this is right, so like I said, everything here is exactly the same. Only difference now is all I've done is taken off, there's no float and there's no float stop. So down to a nice big run ring, 2 ounce lead, ledger boom, obviously you saw there it got a little bit tangled up, is you want to try and kick that bait away from the lead, down to that 75-pound AFW link swivel, then I can just clip on and clip off traces. So if there is what I like to do if I get a fish in the net, what I normally do is clip the trace off, move the rod out of the way, and then I can move everything. Then it's not, if the pike does kind of buck around and stuff like that, there's no other line around which is going to wrap itself around, damage the fish. Down to my usual 2 size 4s, again with a sardine, 1 in the tail and 1 kind of halfway down the flank. And it's very simple. So when what you'll see now with her casting out, you'll probably see the lead will drop in first, kind of quite a way away from it, and then you want to be reeling that line back until you feel that hit there. And now you know your bite indication wise, as soon as that bait gets picked up, moves, comes towards you, that alarm's going to either kind of kick off to move off with the bait, or it will drop down as if it's a drop back and the pike's moving towards you. So if you see with this cast, you'll probably see the bait kicks away from it. So look at the difference there where my lead is and the bait is. So now it's just a case of reeling down slowly. And you'll feel like it's getting tighter there. There. See that drop then? So now I'm right on the lead, okay? Just to bring it back nice and tight so I'm still staying on the lead. Reel down. So I have mine, the clips are adjustable on these, so you can have it really tight if you wanted to. If you're fishing and if it's really windy, you might want it tighter. Obviously very still day to day, so I'm fishing it as light as possible. flick it on. Any kind of movement now on that line where I'm tight to that bait, if it drops and that drops down below that area, the alarm's going to come off. So if I see the sensitivity there, so that's kind of what I'm aiming for. Everything for me is about bite indication, early indication, and then kind of getting on that rod early and striking to stop any kind of deep hooks or issues. Where I've got it set to the right. There we go. I don't know if that bait actually stayed on, to be honest. The sardines a bit soft. I'm going to move over there slightly just so I can see kind of make sure I can see the float. Don't necessarily need to. I think the way Paul's fishing will be exactly the same as this. So carp alarm will just obviously be in your usual place on the front, and then you can buy like the £10 Fox drop-off arms to go onto your back.
That's what I've got.
Yeah, I wouldn't fish it like a carp one because you're not going to get the indication. I'd have it at the back because then you'll be able to see it move up and down if it's a delicate bite, rather than the carp one. It's just going to hang there. You're not going to get too much from it, and then obviously the line will just peel off through this, and you'll get the same kind of indication with the bites. So talk you through it. So I've got pop-ups. I have some already kind of rigged up. Some I just put on a clip, which I can clip onto the top treble if I wanted to, just to kind of sit that bait just off the bottom. The other way I also like to do it is baiting needle. So what I'll do is baiting needle through the tail, up through the mouth. I've then got a wire trace, a small wire trace with a pop-up on the end, like so. I'll pull that back through, and the pop-up will kind of sit in the kind of cavity of the bait. So if it's the herring, where I've kind of cut it off, cut the head off, it will sit in the kind of cavity of that, and then what I do, I will loop that with, I've got a kind of a loop with which will then go slide down my trace. So I'll unclip my trace. Yeah, I can show you all that in a minute. I'll get a fresh bait out, or I'll do it with that herring onto that rod in a minute, because I've got those all clipped up. So one, you're not going to lose pop up. Two, it's a wire trace again, so it's not going to bite through, so you're not going to leave anything in the pike's mouth. And it just kind of gives you that point of difference if you're fishing somewhere which is weedy, maybe early season. If you're looking at October and this has maybe got a bit more weed in it, you want that bait sitting up off the bottom just to be a nice visual. I usually always go for at least have one bait popped up when I'm fishing. I'll usually fish 3 rods. I do a lot of my fishing up on the fens, on the rivers and the land drains. I'll have one bait popped up just to be a point of difference. Leads, 2 ounces is probably enough. Here you could get away with 1 ounce, to be honest, but I would go 2 ounces just to pin that bait on the deck, and it helps with that, the line movement going through the run ring. Something slightly heavier, so they're not going to pull the lead, they're just going to pull the line straight through. 2 ounce or 3 ounces. Ledger booms, very simple. Some of them come with clips, so they will come with the clips. You don't necessarily need to use my the run ring style. You can just do it like that. Have another bead at the end, and then down onto your wire trace. Float stops. You can get the braid ones, kind of medium size. The Adendum ones seem to do the job. Some are more friendly than others. I don't rate the thin ones, the thin Fox ones. I think they normally slip a little bit and break off, so they're not kind of what I normally go for.
Adendum ones are good.
Yeah, the Adendum ones are great in terms of, especially if you're using 50-pound braid to slide up and down. They're not causing any rubbing or anything like that. And then like the AFW £75 link swivel to get from Eddie Turner.
What's AFW?
That's just the make.
Oh, okay.
Where'd you get the boom from?
Booms again. So you got 2. You kind of got your paternoster style. So
Got a bunch of them.
So obviously you'll have the leg clip on there where it's the small plasticky bit. Line will just run straight through. So you can either fish it like paternoster, ledger boom, which will just kick it out at an angle. Again, similar, same with these. You can just use these just to kick that bait away from the ledge.
Same as sea fishing.
I get all those from Eddie Turner. His traces are all handmade, very good. Seen a few reviews lately of some like the ESOX stuff and the Pike Pro stuff with a few issues with them, snapping and stuff like that.
Make your own.
Yeah, you can make your own. My dad does all of his own. He's always done all his own. He uses the old like twisting and stuff like that.
Well, I used to, but
Yeah.
now I've gone on to
He
the
crimps.
crimping.
Yeah. So
But the thing is with the crimping, when you go through and come back on yourself,
Yeah.
so I turn it back and go through it again. So there's 3.
yeah.
So you don't get no slip on it
Yeah,
at all.
I like to sometimes double my crimp. I'll put 2 crimps on just to make sure when I'm making wide
But you
traces.
turn them in.
Just to kind of have your self-confidence, your own confidence in what you want to do. If you want to go out, if you're not kind of well versed in it, then go out and buy some. Like I said, Eddie Turner's Predator Tackle is kind of your best bet. There's Voodoo Traces, is very good, which again is another Pike Anglers Club member who makes those for his business. Predator Pursuits Tackle as well. So any 3 of those I would kind of recommend, rather than going into an Angling Direct or whatever and picking up something which is cheap. You are going to pay a bit more for the handmade ones, but you've probably got a bit more reliability on it. Tools wise, kind of I have loads, just because I have a habit of knocking them off boat edges and stuff like that. It's always carry a pair of bolt cutters. If you have got a pike which is kind of slightly deeper hooked and you can cut off one of the parts of the treble, it's going to make your life easier getting that hook back out. I always carry these just as a backup. If you're not, or if you kind of get into a situation where you can't see any hooks or anything like that, you're fairly new and you're not confident enough to kind of pull up that part of the stomach or the throat to kind of get it out, then looking bolt cutters is probably going to save you and the fish a lot of distress.
Quite handy when you've got a pair of trebles snagged up in the net. And
Yeah,
just
exactly. And
working around in there,
you're
just
better off
cut to bits.
sacrificing a trace and cutting one of the trebles off to get the hooks out the mouth. Cut one of the trebles off, get that little bit out, get the rest of the treble out. Yes, you're going to sacrifice £4 on your trace, but that pike's got a far better chance of going back. In terms of pliers, I like these ones just because they got good grip, kind of the pistol grip ones, and they've got a good length to them to be able to kind of get deeper down if you need to. And then obviously I've got long nose curved ones as well. I have got 2 other shorter sets and I've got another set of these. But I would say a pair of those, 1, 2, 3, probably the best bet. I think these are about £8.99. These are Direwall ones, the Witchwood ones do them I think £9.99, and they're great. They're absolutely
Fox
fantastic.
do a set like
Yeah.
the cutters, I've got those and they're fine.
Yeah, so some of the stuff I find with the Fox stuff, with like the pistol grip ones, after a while if they rust, they do just stick and you can't do anything with them. So yeah, right. All good. In terms of unhooking pike, jacks are normally the ones which cause the most issue. In terms of they thrash around a lot more, you kind of get them in a lot quicker normally because rather than the bigger ones, you don't wear them out with the fight. So they're the ones which are going to kind of thrash around and cause you a little bit more issue. Obviously, big unhooking mat, net. I would normally have the pike obviously in a net at this point. Bring the net over. I would look to then lift the pike out of the net, slide the net out of the way just to kind of keep everything out of the way, and then I've just got the pike left here on the unhooking mat. In terms of hand position, so what you've got on pike is alongside their gills they've got a lot of what we call gill rakers. So when you see people who kind of got abrasions on their hands or cut their hands from pike fishing, a lot of the time if a pike bucks, your hand is sometimes going to get caught on that, and sometimes it comes down to your hand position. If you're a novice and you're not necessarily sure on hand position, it then can cause you a little bit of issue. If you go too close in here, you're going to get your hands caught on gill rakers, even teeth. So what you're looking for is the fleshy part up here. So right under close to chin, you're going to be able to run your hand right up and then put your thumb on the top. There you've kind of got a nice good grip. Your hands are out the way of kind of the danger zone, okay? And that's where you're kind of optimised to 1, your safety, 2, then you're not going to get your hand caught. Some people use gloves. I personally don't like to use them. I think it's going to cause an issue. If a glove gets caught in a gill raker, you've then got to deal with that rather than a little laceration on your hand. It's going to.
If you get a hook go through the glove,
Yeah,
you can't get it out.
You can't get it out because then you've got to hook this side and you've got to go out the mouth that side. So with all pike, as best you can, I would look to try and straddle them, especially with jacks. The jacks are more likely to kind of flap around, okay? And you kind of get yourself in a nice strong position. that pike isn't going to go anywhere if you're kind of fishing on a canal or something like that and you've got a gravel path. The welfare of the pike is going to be at risk. If you're just going to kind of try and do it like this and it bucks around, you're then not quite in control of the pike. So always look to kind of keep nice and tight over the top of it. Obviously you're looking to hold that, try and get that trace nice and tight. If you're working with someone, if you've got someone with you, get them to maybe hold the top of the trace just to pull it tight, just to make your job a little bit easier. Okay, have your tools nice and easy to hand, have a station ready to go. I always like to get the top treble out first. Okay, because then it's nice and free to then run it out. If I get the bottom one out first, I've still got the top one in. If it kicks again, both hooks are going back in. Okay, and then look to just nick that one out. Happy days. Okay, and we're out. If you guys want to practice, feel free to kind of have a practice. Put the hooks kind of wherever you like. In the scissors, you can put them a little bit deeper. I always think you can, 99% of the time, be able to get the hook out, even if it is deeper, like this. Some pike anglers like to go, if you need to, go in the back of the gill rake, behind the gill rakers to get it out. I don't think it's necessary. I would always look to do it like this, down, clip out, nice and easy.
Yeah,
then you've got that pike. Yeah,
back as
exactly. Well. You're going to do a bit more damage because there's a lot of big capillary network, lots of blood flow. You're going to do a bit more damage to the pike that way.
Where is the bad handling then? So if we had 4 die here recently, what are people doing wrong, do you think?
I wouldn't necessarily say it comes down to handling. I would say it comes down to how long they've left their rod. I don't think they've possibly struck early enough and the pike have then ended up with the bait down the back of the throat,
right.
Which is then either they're leaving it in there, they're kind of cutting the trace really high. I would say that's probably what has caused the issue, rather than bad pike handling. Potentially the other bad pike handling, if you're lifting the pike out of the water, you have your net in the water with the pike in it, you lift it up like this, you've got it just by the chin, there's no support here for the rest of the body, walk it over to your mat with your rod, then put it down and unhook. Great distance. As soon as that thing bucks, yes, whilst that's a good way of holding them, if you do get,
you drop it,
you're likely to drop it.
That's why I mentioned earlier on, I don't want to say anything, but I always put my finger over the centre. I come up it like that,
Yeah.
and I go over there like that. So it can't turn sideways and you just pull it straight back like that.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the way at all. Even if that flips,
Yeah.
it won't move. If you've got your hand sometimes under the flat,
under the flat,
go.
yeah, go. And then it's that like
anyway,
shot, you get caught by a gill raker and you're not used to it, chances are you're going to drop it. And then obviously, makes life nice and easy. You can just come around this side, hand under the chin, support the belly, easy for a boat.
Hang on, can you hold it still a minute? I'll zoom in. No, the other way around. I want to see how you're holding your hand in its gob. Have a look.
So I've got my thumb right up close to the chin.
I would have grabbed that in the centre.
Yeah,
Can we see inside the mouth where your
Under
thumb
that
is?
chin.
Alright.
So yeah,
There's
my hands
obviously
are well out the way of the gill
anatomy
rakers.
here, under the tonguey thing.
It's not quite the same without a real one, is it?
Alright.
So yeah, feel free to stick some hooks in, stick them deep, stick them in the scissors, and then practice, especially that hand position, just sliding that hand up. Obviously comes down to confidence. There, you've been pike fishing for years, so you could go in and loop your thumb in.
Intuitively, it looks so sort of delicate there that you think you'd never be able to pick the fish up like that, but absolutely it's the right way
so
to
as long
do
as
it,
you're
but-
sliding up the fleshy part,
Which is delicate one? Which you saying is a delicate
No,
one?
it looks delicate. That part where you're putting the fingers, you think that
That
really...
is solid bone.
Yeah, but
Solid bone up
for
there,
people
it's
who
nothing
don't...
soft.
Yeah, but for people who don't know, you wouldn't necessarily do
Well,
that.
that's the idea of these sort
That's
of
why
things.
it's important to because you would pick them up by the
Yeah, then you got a good, nice
Yeah.
strong grip. Like
Yeah.
there's enough to grip onto. Like I said,
really
like
good.
you can put your finger through it around there. Nice,
I've
nice
seen
strong
so
firm
many
grip.
people drop them
Yeah, that's
like that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
So again, if it does buck, as long as you're close to the mat and you do get your hand caught, at least you're dropping it on a mat and you're close.
Yeah.
Always have a mat underneath and then it hopefully makes your life a little bit easier. But yeah, feel free to have a try of the tools, stick some hooks in it, practice kind of rolling that pike onto its back, straddle, hands going right up nice and tight to the chin, because as soon as you go in here, that's when you kind of get into a bit of issue where the gills are and the gill rakers, when you're going to get your hands.
Can you explain about pulling the stomach up? Because obviously when I've got it like that, okay, I can ease the wire up and I trap it with my thumb.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything is straight. But then you just ease a little bit more up, and you can hear it hiss, and then the stomach comes up.
The stomach comes up, yeah.
And then I go through the back here,
yeah,
get hold of it and twist it,
and
it's
pop
up.
it out.
And then you just move the wire up a bit more, and you'll see the next one come up.
Yeah. So most of the time, most of your issue will come from most of the time the bottom treble. God forbid that you do get the odd time that it takes both trebles, and then and then you got that's when it's even for me as a seasoned pike angler, is a little bit like shit.
Yes.
So most of the time it's kind of, you got this, and then you kind of got like it's almost like an inverted like membrane, and if you just pull it up and just tease it, just so you can just gently tease it so you can see the top of the eye, and then like you said, you can go in behind the back of the gill rakers. So if I'm holding the fish here and I've got that open, I can see all the, this is a bit messier than a pike would be, but you can see,
been abused, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see right at the back, and you can kind of get your tools in behind, and then you just need to tease it up and just slightly
90
twist.
degrees.
If you've got two people with you, if you're fishing with your son or a friend or something like that, your friend can just tease it up gently while you're dealing with the hooks, which is quite nice when you're fishing with two, but you're not always fishing with two. But I think, like you said, the issue came about for the pike in here that suffered would have probably been bite indication and not striking quick enough.
Can I also explain that when the stomach comes up,
yeah,
and you take the trebles out by turning them 90 degrees and taking them out, the stomach will stay up.
Yeah, so you
don't get a bank stick or something that isn't sharp on the end, and push it all back gently until it's
How far up with the stomach come now? I've had a couple where I've done it and it's just come into view, but I've never had to really take
You don't have to yank it.
No, you don't yank it, you're drawing it.
And
just keep the pressure, and it will just slowly
you don't want it to come up until you start giving it an hemorrhage down the bottom. Well, you know, how far do you pull? You know.
Well, you can just see it rolling back gently.
Yeah.
The only problem you will get if somebody's used a mega treble and it's gone that side of the throat and the other side. It's jammed because it won't turn back.
It won't turn back on itself doing both sides. But then, again, this is where these become your friends, because you can cut off one part of the treble, and then you're only dealing with two parts of treble, or you cut off two parts of the treble that you can see, and it just leaves you that last bit that you can then snip out. You'd rather waste £4. Rather waste £4 than lose a fish.
That's why I was asking you about putting a double on the front of the treble.
Yeah, some people, I've seen some people just use a single and then down to the treble. So the top hook's a single, or the top hook's a double, which are kind of hook one side and like kind of adjacent to each other. So one goes in and it just leaves one single. Again, I've just always fished with trebles, so that's what I fish for. You fish with circles, that's what you're comfortable with, and it's not a problem. It's completely, there are different, the circle hooks are kind of coming into a bit of fashion, they're getting a bit more social media presence, as it were, and people using them, a few more videos on them and stuff like that. I haven't personally used them, so I don't know whether it kind of affects hookup rate.
Basically, it's down to people showing respect for them, where they don't. If they get a carp on the bank, they do all this and they do all the circuit. But a pike, they don't give a monkey about.
No, pike look fierce and they've got the teeth and everything like that, and they're a predator. They're actually the most delicate one.
Exactly.
If you get any issues with the water, probably the first fish that go belly up are pike. Oxygen crashes, it'll be pike. You've seen the salt surges up in Norfolk, pike have gone belly up to 35 pound, I think they pulled out. And like a number of them. Phil Spinks went up there and with the EA and picked up, there must have been 3 or 4 30s taken out on the viewer, or the I think, because of the salt surge.
How long will that take to get back to what it is?
But yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for sticking my oar in.
No, it's much appreciated. It's right. It gives a different perspective, and if you use circle hooks, and it's nice to bounce off somebody rather than go, oh, I might miss something. It's quite nice to be picked up on anything.
I've got a question.
Yep.
Myself. You know about your thing about how delicate it looks, and I'm thinking, holding everything by the jaw and the weight of the pike, what's the chance of dislocation of the jaw?
40 at the back.
yeah, just supporting the back. Well, thing here, if that thing bucks, it can't buck too far. Yeah.
That's the main thing.
That's the main thing, because then you've got it kind of. I'm not crushing it.
No.
I've got it gently in between my legs. If it flaps around, I've still got some good control on it. If I need to let go because it's twisting in a certain way where maybe my hand's gonna, I'll just let go.
Yeah.
That fish can't go anywhere over here, can't go anywhere over here. It's just in between my legs, and then I'll just, if it ends up back like this, I'll just roll it back over, hands in position, and we're away.
Just on the end of that, sorry.
Yeah.
What I always use on my mat, I've got a big old carpers and fences sling open.
Yeah.
So way it, and then it goes back into the water in that sling.
Yeah.
Like a chopping
Yeah,
bait.
so I will always,
It's not going anywhere.
yeah, with Pike, either lift them up back into the net and let them go in the net, or if you've got them in a weigh sling, I've got a weigh sling there, and if I've weighed a double or whatever, I'll just back into there and let it go in that.
The other thing is holding them in the water for a bit as well, isn't it? If
Yeah.
it's been a big fight.
Yeah, it's been a good fight.
Just
I would
let
just,
them-
look to hold it,
Yeah.
hold it in the right position, hold its
Well,
tail.
You get some
And then-
swims like
Yeah,
that, you ain't going to get
yeah,
down there.
no, I know, but if you can, it's
Yeah,
trying to
but
hold
that's where the net
support
sometimes
them until
comes
they're
in.
ready to go.
Similar with anything,
Yeah.
like you just let it rest in the net, let it get its
Yeah.
orientation, and then it'll swim off.
So they're getting tired.
Is there a time limit out of the water for pike? I know that carp can last a long
Keep
time.
them out, keep them out as least as possible. If I want to
No,
get,
I know,
a
but
photo-
if you
I
can't
had
get
an
the
issue
hooks
with
out.
if I had an issue with unhooking it and it's taking me a bit longer to unhook because maybe it's deeper, that pike's going back in the net. Say it's a double or a 20 that I want to get a photo of. That pike's going back in the net, and I'll leave it back in the net for a couple of minutes just to let it recover, get it out. Couple of quick snaps, back in the net, it's gone. I'll aim to it. I can't put a number on it. I'm not going to put a number on it because there's no rhyme or reason. But I would always look after that first rather than your trophy photo that goes on your cabinet. Is what I would go.
Yeah,
Any other questions, guys?
That's why I use a sling, because the sling's open
Yeah.
on the mat. Right, it needs to go back in if I get something sorted, whether it's, you've had problems unhooking it or whatever.
Yeah.
Back in the water for a couple of minutes, then
That's what mine
back
wants.
out on the sling, open the sling out,
Yeah.
and it's there ready to be lifted.
Oh, well
You
done.
haven't got to physically lift it.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for that, friend. I'm going to move up to the
No,
next
that's
one.
okay. No worries at all. Yeah. If you guys I've got you won't need it, but I've got. I've got you guys here. Those who are not.
A real pike. This is one we caught earlier, isn't
One we
it?
caught earlier. Yeah, so pike tubes are really good. So you've got the pike tubes, or you've got like big keep sacks and things like that. See what I mean with jacks as soon as they come out. So here, looking to roll it over. So you can see obviously like the dimpled side of the, like here. So lift up that gill plate. You can see where the issue is here, isn't it? So you see all the gill rakers. These are the ones where the gill rakers are, and you've got the issue with the kind of spikes and everything like that. So you're wanting to run your hands under a small pike. You only probably need 2 fingers, up as close as you can, and you can kind of see your finger through, and you lock those together. And I've got a nice position here to unhook that pike. Okay.
Nice teeth.
So it's obviously a little bit clearer here. So what you can see down the bottom of the mouth is that's where, see it buck there? I've got all control of it.
Yeah.
So you see down the bottom here, what you've got is this is where the stomach issue is here. So you can see the entrance to the stomach here. Sometimes that's where the hooks go. When you're looking to pull those hooks up, you're pulling up nice and gently just to be able to see them, and you should just be able to just rotate them round and up. And then take something like your forceps, and because it won't retract back itself, you just need to kind of push it back nice and gently. Okay.
Oh, you'll see the throaty bit because I'm at a slight angle here. Ooh, that's good, isn't it? You can zoom in later on and have a look.
And then again,
Right.
you can switch round into position, still holding under the jaw, nice and strong, and you get a nice little photo of your pike. Okay? Everyone happy with that?
It's nice and calm as well, isn't it?
Put him back in here, and then we can probably let him go. in a minute, can't we?
the lake.
Eh?
Go back to my friends.
Yeah. Carry him like this, straight over, like I would use a net normally.
Swimming away.
Here's Larry.
Come away.
What's the size of that one? 4 or 5 pounds?
Someone's foot.
Yeah, it's a little baby, but they're the ones that will cause you the most headaches when it comes to kind of unhooking and everything. Hook at dead bait, tail, wrist of the tail, kind of where there's a bit of bone there for the hook to kind of dig in. Sardines, especially when they're frozen, is a little bit easier. And then the next one, kind of halfway down the flank.
And you're putting
like
both
so.
of them at an angle of 45 degrees rather than straight back.
Yeah, so looking like that. What will happen with pike fishing, pike will normally turn their bait to take it head first. So then your chances are there, if that comes in, you're more likely to kind of get that hookup rate, which is a little bit better. Obviously when the bait starts to go a bit soft, it's solid now because it's frozen. If you've just left it out for a little while, sardine are really oily, so they'll be good for a while. I always then just maybe put in this bottom one, put a second treble in the flesh, just if you're casting out a bit far, you're going to more likely to keep it on and the presentation is going to be better. So it should look like that.
Okay. Right, okay.
And then
That was £50 main brain.
50 mat, yeah. Shimano Power Pro, as you see, it's got a little bit thinner, rather than some of the stuff you see is a little bit kind of heavy, and then you have issues with your stopping bead or anything like that. So I'll just underarm this out and I'll show you. So as you can see there, the difference between where my lead landed and my bait landed. So this is, everything's hit the bottom now. So what I'm looking to do now to maximise my bite indication, if I left it as it is now, if a pike picks up that bait and I put this on here, I'm probably not going to get any indication for a little while until it really moves off, because I'm not tight up to my lead. So what I'm wanting to do here now is just reel back slowly. You'll see the rod tip bounce in a minute. There. See now, I'm back. That trace has now hit the bead, has hit where the lead is, and I'm nice and tight. So if I lift up everything now, I'm lifting the bait and the lead. And I'll just run it back, still keeping it nice and tight. General rule, I would always try, best you can, try and have your eyes lined up facing where your bait is, just to kind of minimise resistance so it's not going to pull round on the rod tip and bang the rod tip. Here, all we're looking to clip the line in, turn on the anti-reverse, so it just bounces around. You want to try and keep that alarm in line, so then you're going to pick up drop backs as well as kind of fish moving off with it. And I'm just going to clip it off there. With the clips here, you can kind of adjust them as you see fit. If you're fishing really windy area, you're probably going to want to tighten that clip up just to kind of keep it on to stop you having to come back and the alarm drops off. So if I get a small pull out, that's barely anything, isn't it? Kind of bite indication wise. Okay, so these are Eddie Turner's backbiters. I think you can get 2 for 80 quid and they're great. So yeah, that's
Why do you flip the bail up? You probably said this already, but stopping you from just engaging a bait runner? Yeah, that's right. I know you've got less resistance, I guess.
just less resistance. And
could you fish it just off the bait runner with that?
probably could, yeah. But in terms of, you're probably going to get, with it being like this free spool,
Yeah.
you're going to get more, if you get drop back bait runner, you're not going to get that indication. Whereas with that, you will get that indication because that line will drop. And then that will drop with it. If you fish it tight off the bait runner,
It's got that resistance.
it's got the resistance, and it's got to go that way. Can't go. So so that's how I set up a running ledger.
How long are you going to give it between the pike, first indication, and striking?
Not too long.
Nothing.
Barely anything.
Okay, so
See that flow
we're talking
start?
seconds rather than...
Seconds. Yeah. Some of the real bad practice is like, oh yeah, leave it 20 seconds, leave it 30 seconds, leave it a minute or whatever.
So is it almost like carp fishing in that sense of how quick you need to be on the
Not
line?
quite as quick as that, because they're self-hooking. A lot of your carp rigs are self-hooking. I'm going to move that way just so I can see my floats as well. I'm talking all this good practice and I can't see my floats. Yeah, so in terms of float setup, and see that dropping off, you'll see the line peeling off anyway. At that point, you're giving it a couple of seconds. You don't need to. You've seen one of the best videos is probably the ginger fisherman. Anyone seen him on YouTube?
Yeah,
Some of his pike fishing practice is not great. However, I think his underwater footage stuff is actually really quite insightful in terms of the way the pike goes down and picks up the bait. You can see sometimes they're really tentative and they might just have your bait just in the front of their mouth and they'll move off with it. Or they're really on it, they're really predatory and they're coming down, smashing it, and then, because you see they flare the gills and the bait just goes.
Sucked up.
Yeah, sucked straight in. And then at that point, it's then going to move off. You'll get an indication on the float straight away when that happens. Same with that. As soon as that bait gets any kind of movement on it, you're going to get indication there, and I'll get a little indication here.
So if you see these start to bob at all,
yeah,
are you going to strike?
Not if it's like, so that's possibly the first indication you're going to get. At that point, as soon as I've seen that, I'm picking up the rod. These are on the bait runner. I'm opening the baler. Then that float is most likely to start sliding off. Couple of seconds, 2 seconds. Bang. I'm winding down until I feel the fish, then striking. Sometimes people just lift like this. There's way too much slack out, and you're not going to necessarily get a good hookup. So I'm looking to reel. That pike could, depending on the aggressiveness of the take, it could just pick up the bait and go. At which point then you don't necessarily need to strike into it, but sometimes you get the really delicate bites and it's just wobbling around like so. If it does that and then stops, it's always worth just picking your rod up and just lifting to see if you're into fish. Because sometimes the pike might just pick it up and sit on it or with it in their mouth. So if you do notice the indication, just look to lift that float up slightly, see what you can feel, and then look to kind of wind down and hit.
Has that been eaten?
No, I always cut the heads off my herring.
Because that lets more juices out.
Yeah, it gives you a bit slightly smaller bait. So with, I'll take the trace off and show you about marking up your float system. If you're kind of more of a carp angler or something like that, I would suggest the running ledger is probably your easiest bet. To be honest, just because there's less to it, all you got to do is wind down to the lead, what you would do with your carp angling. And all you're changing over is your end tackle from a hook link to a wire trace.
So can you use just like artificial alarms?
Yeah, I'll talk you through that in a minute. So what I've got up here, this is where I've set the depth, is just one of the float stops, one of the Adendum ones. What I'll do is set it on the depth in a minute, and I'll pass out and show you what it looks like. Down to a bead, I normally go for an orange bead, bright bead, doesn't matter. It's just a bead at the top, for it to hit against. Dumpy slider, Pike Pro, these are the large ones, these are quite nice, they're actually quite light. But you feel that there's not actually that much resistance to it for them pulling it in the water. So I've got some other
weight will take that under?
The 2 ounce lead will take that under.
They will sink it, yeah.
Then back down,
so you know what you're doing.
Same run ring, same ledger boom, same link swivel, 75-pound link swivel. Done. Nice and easy. Okay.
Well, same as a running ledger, you mean?
When they pick up,
yeah,
the lead's going to be on the bottom, is that right?
Yeah.
When they pick up, are they going to be lifting the lead off the bottom,
No.
or are they going to be pulling the float
No,
off?
it'll be the float. The float will get the lead. If you're fishing with a 2 ounce lead, 3 ounce lead, the lead will just stay rooted. The idea, you want it rooted, so then there's no resistance. If they feel that lead, chances are they're probably going to drop it. You've seen things like zander fishing, that seems to have got, zander are very finicky, and if they feel a lead, they're just going to drop the bait. Similar with pike, if there's like any tangle up or you've got too much resistance, they will sometimes just
Better
drop
off
it.
with more lead than less lead.
Yeah,
basically.
I go 2 ounce as your starting point, and then if you're fishing somewhere like Trent with a 7, and you're going to be stepping up to 3 and 5 ounce. But at that point, you're probably not going to be fishing baits hard on bottom. You're going to be changing your setup to fish a pattern off stuff.
And if you're fishing somewhere like the Thames, you're fishing in the slacks anyway.
Yeah, 2 ounce lead.
So 2 ounce.
2 ounce lead would be absolutely fine. Yeah, it's fine slacks, fine the pike. To be
Yeah,
honest,
well,
they're lazy buggers.
Yeah, when it's flying through.
Yeah, you want to be sitting in behind a tree or a back eddy or something like that. 2 ounce, 3 ounce lead, wherever you can hold bottom with. But as soon as when I turned up, I didn't put any trace on, just put the lead on, and then I'm looking at what I'm looking at depth wise. So just an underarm cast. So as you can tell with that, the way that float's bobbing around now, that lead's not on bottom. Alright? So like, it's trying to, that lead is still trying to pull the float down, so I'm not on bottom there at all. Okay? So, then all I'm looking to do is adjust it. So if I went super the other way, and go over that, this is where you're going to cause yourself issues, which is why I think, I got asked earlier about why I think the Pike, so what you saw there's no kick of the float where the stop knot hits it, so the float now, there, I'm guessing about where that stop knot is. I could probably, if I lift it up, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it there, but what you can see is that float is kind of moving back towards me on the wind, and I've got way too much kind of slack out. And in terms of bite indication, that pike's now got, I don't know, foot of line to take before my float does anything, which is kind of not ideal at all. So again, this will take you 5 minutes essentially, but similar if you're carp angling, you're leading around trying to find where the gravelly spots are or where a clear spot is out of the weed, you're going to do that for 10 minutes. It's worth doing this for 5 minutes before you connect the trace. So again, now I'm just looking to move that float stop down a little bit.
And would you be looking for any type of bottom? Would you be looking to avoid the weed or anything like that?
Next to weed, ideally. Probably next to weed beds, next to lily pads. I was quite tempted by that swim there earlier, which I might move the alarm rod in there a bit later, hoping for a bite, or move a float rod in there. Yeah, again, so I didn't get any. You see, the float stop didn't hit the float again, so I'm not right where I need to be. So again, I'll just move it down a few inches at a time, just to make sure I'm getting this right. There you go, you can see that kick. So then now, what I'm looking to see it kicks, I know the float stops up against it, and then I'll have that bow the line straight down to that float. And then any movement, if I leave it like this, I will still get the indication, but by having it like that, you're maximising your bite indication. Because I know that float stops up against that float, I'm happy now. If I get a take, that float will give me a nice early indication, could just be as much as that. You see how I'm barely touching the line there? And it'll give me just enough. And I'll be like, right, the pike either around it, just picked it up, and then it's on the bait runner. Sometimes you will just get an absolute scream. It'll just go. Scotland is a prime example of that. You're boat fishing, you got your floats out, and sometimes you don't see your floats go. It's just bait runner, similar to what you can't. Whereas this here is, you should see everything happen in front of you. And that's how I set up with my float.
And with your floats, you keep your rods up?
Yeah, I fish a lot of rivers, really. I fish a lot of rivers, a lot like drains where I'm fishing over the top of reeds and things like that. So I will always have it up, and then you just get that nice, you just feel like you've got that better connection to the float and the bait. Yeah, rather than having all the slack in. It just feels like I'm in better contact with the bait. So I'll put that trace back on and cast out.
And if you're fishing 2 rods, are you generally fishing 2 float rods or 1 of each?
I will normally fish 3. I've got 3 rod license, so if I'm up on the fens, I'll usually fish 3. 2 float rods kind of right in front of me like I am here, and then maybe an alarm rod less than 10 yards so I can hear it. And I'm kind of positioned right by the floats, but then I can react. Like here today is kind of my usual setup on a drain. I'll have 2 rods out in front of me in one swim, and then I'll have a.
You'd always have the float, two float rods where you could see both floats in your kind of.
The only places that I might change that, and I would go straight to 3 alarm rods, would be somewhere like a Scottish lock, where you're casting a bigger distance to find the drop off if you're on the bank, and then so you got to use alarm rods is far more conducive than trying to work out if the lock is choppy and you're bank fishing, the bite indication on your float is not going to be that obvious, because you're dealing with the chop. Whereas if you're dealing with a running ledger, you know straight away it's just going to clip out and then you're off.
How often would you change your bait?
That's even slightly deeper there, or cast slightly deeper. I think it just comes down to what you fancy, to be honest. I haven't had a run on a like that's been out for it's either been out the whole time. I've only just changed the sardine because I've been talking. If it just looks a little bit kind of like, or smells kind of gone out of it, and you can always oil inject. Holy mackerel fish oil seems to be the go-to thing. A lot of companies make them these days just to kind of reduce your bait a bit. But I would, if I'm on a drain or a river, what I will normally do is fish for half an hour, 40 minutes tops in one swim, and then I'll move. Because chances are you've got to move to find the pike. Especially in the winter where you've got to work out where the bait fish are. The bait fish don't usually move too far, and that's where you're going to find the pike. So I always look to try and move. Like today, if I was fishing here on my own and not doing the pike fishing, I would have given this an hour, and then I would have moved.
They're fairly static now. They don't really rove too much.
They'll follow the bait fish mainly.
Yeah.
In the winter, it's just finding bait fish shoals. It's the key thing, I suppose, on here. I've had the grebes out in front of me, so a lot further out, and they've been catching bait fish. A bit different on a lake compared to a river, I suppose. Because I suppose on a lake, the bait fish are probably slightly more spread out. But if you can find a shoal of bait fish, pike will normally be just sitting off of them, and we'll just come in and pick them off. Whether they feed it first light, last light, middle of the day, it's working out what the feeding pattern is. I've not fished here before, so yeah, they are a bit more static, definitely in the winter, especially at the moment. It's 13, 14 degrees. They're going to still be moving, so probably lure fishing might be a better option today because their pike are probably going to be on the move. Whereas we get to kind of December, January, March, and we're looking at, we've had a couple of frosts, and we're looking at more like you're going out in the morning and it's 1 degree. The pike are probably going to be a bit more static. So it's just about kind of moving and working out your water as best you can, to be honest. The other way of doing it is with these ones is...
You better announce what it is you're doing. See, I'm just
popping off a dead bait.
Right.
Unclip your trace. You take the trace off for the time being, and then I use quite a big, I think, catfish baiting needle. What I'll then do is run it through the tail, straight through, as straight as possible, kind of get it out through the mouth, or showing the cavity of like a herring or a mackerel where you've cut the top of the head off. You've got that kind of stomach cavity where you can then pull the pop-up back into. Then probably, let's go with the bigger one just for the time being, just to kind of really show what we're doing. Just onto the baiting needle, and then just pull that back through to here. So here now you've got really kind of nice, neat presentation. If it was in a mackerel, obviously you would try and pull that pop-up back into the bait to hide it if you wanted to, like you suggested. Yeah. This is just, I'm just showing you to kind of make it nice and obvious, it's easy to see. Now, with your trace, through the loop, which you've made at the top, and slide it back down and hook it as you would do normally. One through the tail, and then one through the side. Yeah. Depending on now, what will probably happen, this will stand up pretty much the full width, the full length of your trace. Okay? So, if you wanted to, you could just add a swan shot, depending on where you wanted to, down the trace, just to pin it down a little bit, and it will just sit up that high, or it will sit up that high, depending on what you're fishing over. I would probably pin it quite close to the bottom.
Swan shot enough for that?
Yeah, swan just enough to do this. And then you just
find pinching the swan shot on your trace, weakening it or not? I always try a bit of power gum on the stop.
Wouldn't do too much. Shouldn't do too much, especially using a 60-pound trace.
Yeah, I'm on 28, so you know.
And then just clip it back up. If we go water side now, you'll be able to see this kind of up in the margin here.
If you're in a reasonable depth of water, do you find it makes much difference as to how much off the bottom you pop them up? I've been fishing a weedy pit over in the Little Valley, and I've been popping them up the full length of the trace.
Yeah,
no problem.
I think it's all you want to do is make that bait as visible as possible.
Over here, you're starting to get a bit of shoulder on the bottom, so I pop them up just off the top, keep them up.
But yeah, that's kind of full length, which is almost like too much. Obviously, if you're fishing that close, you've got a surface bait there.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're fishing in deeper water, over some weed or something like that, then it will just sit up nicely again. Then you just pull him back to the lead. I'm pulling the lead there, and then even if I pull the lead back, it will just swing back up into the same place.
Well, could you almost fish it like that? Lob it out and
Yeah, and that will
tweak it back and
yeah, I could fish it. I would if I'm going straight out, if I'm going out a fair distance, and I've got 12 foot probably in front of me. That's only sitting 2-3 foot off the bottom. Might be the point of difference. I'm going to put it out like that now and see what happens. Right, it might just be a point of difference. With my piking, I will always go 2 baits static and hard on the bottom, and then I'll have one popped up, whether it's just a small pop-up just to keep it off the bottom, or whether it is using this to get it right up off the bottom depending on the weed. Early season on a river or a pit, then you probably want to be looking at this just to get it up above that weed and make it visible. Plus the pike in this warmer weather are probably still on the move and more likely to react to a lure or something which is visible rather than going down on something on the deck potentially.
Also, when the bait's off the deck, you can give it some movement every 20 minutes, just give it a tug back without it fouling anything on the bottom.
And then obviously the beauty of that is now you've got another wire trace running through it, your bait's not going to come off at all. So it's not going to cause you too much issues. So I might put this out a little bit further and then reel back down to the lead and just see if a duck bait does the trick. Because at the moment I haven't had anything else. So so it's always worth doing.
Yeah, these swims tend to take them a bit more distance, I've found that anyway.
And I'm reeling down there, feel the lead, and then just walk it back. Try and keep the bobbin in line with your reel, and then it will just give you good indication of drop backs. So the fish is coming towards you or a fish is going away from you. If you have it kind of too far one way, you're only going to get an indication of moving the fish moving away from you. Hopefully.
And in theory, if you've got a 3 ounce lead, in theory you shouldn't get a drop back. You think mechanically, because the pike will move towards you and the line should pivot through.
Should pivot through.
It doesn't happen like that.
It does like loose. Sometimes you see your line drop off slightly before you get a run. So if you're just watching your rods fairly intently and you're quite pinned down low rods, you'll see the line either just pick up off the water or like bow down.
Yeah, but a lot of the one little blade can see the rod tops go like that, or it's a little dimpling where the line goes in. That's time to hit it.
Like I said, if you see it drop down, or
if I see it drop down,
I'll
I'll get everything here. Everything will happen here, and I'll get the alarm, and then the line will probably 9 times out of 10 it will move away.
If I hit it straight away, it's probably a jack, so nothing wrong.
It is what it is, yeah. I'd rather lose a fish striking early than dealing with a deep hook fish. But yeah, that's everything from me really, guys. If you wanted to have a play around with the girt and shove some hooks in it and practice, feel free.
Would you pop a bait up if you were float fishing as well? You could do that same sort of thing.
You could, as long as you're really tight to your lead, you can. You can, but I prefer that if you're popping it up. Yeah. And then you were asking about bite alarm. So you can use carp alarm. Carp alarm on the front, absolutely fine. And then just get a back bobbin. So you can buy the Fox ones, which will just clip onto the back there. You'll have it in exactly the same place. Because if you use a carp bobbin, with carp bobbins you're relying on it just pulling it and it's already kind of self-hooked. Whereas that will give you the indication it will drop slightly away, up and down, and then you'll get the indication on the alarm as well because you're pulling that line nice and tight down in the.
With a really heavy bobbin, not do the same.
Yeah, but I would always just move your bobbin to your back one. Right. Just personally, but I would see it. I think these you buy like the arms which clip onto your back rest or pod or whatever for about 10 or 12 quid. The Fox ones or
Eddie Turner does them as well.
Yeah, Eddie Turner does them as well. I think they're only like a tenner as well. And then these are Eddie Turner alarms and they're I think 35, 40 quid.
I mean, Gardner do them, but they're a bit flimsy.
yeah, depends what you're comfortable with. I would always go Eddie Turner personally, just because I know it's good quality gear, rather than going your Angling Direct and buy the production line stuff, rather than the handmade ready rigs. And the handmade ready rigs are so much better.
He's the man for predator fishing, isn't he?
Eddie Turner, yeah, Eddie Turner Predator Tackle.
He's wear, isn't he?
He's only wear, yeah, and he gets them out. You put an order in, it's all on it's PayPal. It's a bit old school, but PayPal, and you'll get it for like within 3 days.
Good question, but is the boom essential for the end bit there? Because I mean, I usually fish when I'm carp fishing. I would just do a normal running rig anyway.
Yeah.
So my theory is I could just clip the wire trace on the end of it instead.
I just like having the boom there just to kind of kick it away from the lead and away from the braid, because obviously you're dealing with pike with teeth.
Yeah.
If then your bait is too close to the rest of your line and it picks up and goes through with mouth open or whatever, or picks up, like when it sucks in that bit of line.
Yeah, it's good.
Ping. Whereas that just gives you that extra few inches just to kick it out and away, which will make your life easier. But yeah.
Would you ever float fish a dead bait suspended mid-water?
Yeah, you can on rivers. It sometimes works if you just you wanted to trot it through on a fast river, or you can fish it paternoster. So you fish it if it's like a fairly fast moving water, and you want your bait up off the bottom, kind of waving around. It's float, and then you got paternoster boom, which I've got in there, which is just like it's just an L shape. Yeah. Run straight down, and you want a nice length of like, I don't know, 10-pound line, which is attached to your lead, and then obviously you're measuring the depth from the bottom of that lead to your stop knot up here, and then you have the trace coming off at a right angle. So you'll have the bait, everything down straight like that, and then the bait will be kicked out, waving around in flow. Usually something like sprat or smelt, because it's lighter.
He's got that set up on the other setup, so you can have a look at it there.
You're talking about paternosters. I'll speak to you about them if you want. I'm thinking on a deeper pit.
He's got a paternoster set up.
Now, the only problem is a lot of clubs now have got rules and regs about up traces on paternosters.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't think you need an up trace on the dead bait because it's hanging down.
I've never used it. I've never used an up trace. I know that you're better off.
A lot of people have got rules.
Depends
about
on
it
yeah.
With a live bait, yes.
So up trace is basically another wire trace which comes up your line, which will then prevent, because it does. So if you're fishing like a live bait, you're fishing a bait really suspended and everything like that, to prevent you getting any kind of bite off, so it's swimming and taking the bait and going through your line, you've got that up trace there to kind of protect you from that point of view.
I think that's only for use with live baits. With a dead bait, the dead's hanging down. It might, if you're really unlucky, it's going to take your lead.
But normally your lead line underneath is going to be lighter anyway, so if you do clink off, it's not a problem.
But you're not going to get a bite. I can't see you getting a bite off on the main line if you've got a dead bait hanging down like that.
Yeah, that comes down to trial and error and personal preference.
A lot of clubs have got rules about that now. You must use an up trace.
So if you're fishing that paternoster, you're fishing basically a rotten bottom, are you? So it's going to break.
Effectively, yeah.
Only to the lead.
Only down to the lead, yeah. So I'll use just a lighter line, like a 10-pound line or 6-pound line, whatever. And if it breaks off, I only lose a lead. Leads are expensive these days.
Same as I use bass fishing.
It's almost like a rotten bottom, and then it just everything straight down from the float, and then you've got your bait kicked out.
Does the lead cause a problem when you're playing a pike if it's on a paternoster? No, not really.
Because you're not usually you haven't normally got loads of line down anyway. You're probably only going to have like a couple of foot, aren't you? You only just want it just up above the bottom on the float. So
it's easier to pop them up off the bottom, like on the length of the trace.
Yeah, on the length of the trace, or like I said, on the clip. And like I said, I think Fox have brought out the wire trace leads, so it's like rubber tubing, and then you clip on the leads. I think Matt Rand's done a video of it recently, and then you clip on the little lead onto your trace like that with the rubber tubing around, which protects the trace a bit more than just using a swan shot.
Right. It's like the theory of the old fishing gazette pipe run. It's got a slot in the top.
Yeah, basically our little pipe.
I'll have a look at them.
Yeah, so that will then you can move that up and down depending on how far you want the bait popped up.
I'll get a bit of heavy duty pale gum, do a stop knot on it, tie it on the trace with a length on it, and then I'll clip the shots on there so it don't flip on the trace. But it's messy.
Yeah, keep it simple. Keep it simple with pipe fishing. Now we're in this time of year now, most of the weed has died off. Running ledger straight to a dead bait on the bottom, and a pike will come and get it. If you're really looking for a point of difference, pop-up will do the job for you, but I like fishing one. I just like having one different to the other two, just to see, just to see if something happens. But I keep my pike fishing very simple, as you can see.
Carp leg.
What do you mean?
So like for you to catch your lead on, you might have already said it, but I might have not been here.
Yeah, just a normal, just normal carp. Yeah, just don't have it fixed.
Yeah.
Don't have it. Yeah, have it all running so it can just take the line and the lead stays where it is. So you want your lead sitting here, picks the bait up here and just goes, and that lead doesn't go anywhere. Because as soon as it moves that lead a bit, it'll be like something up here and spit it out or try and spit it out.
Are you using the same sort of rods for both methods?
Yep, these are all 10 foot. I use 10 foot, 3 pound test scare for agitator, Witchwood agitator. I use 10 foot because I do a bit of boat fishing, so 10 foot is a lot easier to navigate around a boat than a 12 foot rod.
What have you got on the braid? I sprayed it.
And then it's a Shimano 10,000 bait runner with 50 pound braid. And that one's only half loaded, so I ran out of braid at the end, but there's plenty on there. And then the other ones are fully loaded. The other reels, which are quite good, which won't break the bank, just 30 quid at Akuma Carbonite. They're bait runner, they're like a 4,000 bait runner, and they're quite good in terms of one, spool size is enough, and two, it's got a bait runner system, plus it comes with a spare spool. So if you want to fish mono for your carp fishing, and then you just spool up another braid one for your pike fishing, do that.
Yeah, the Akumas ain't bad. I've got.
I think
I've
Akuma
got
stuff's
set there
bomb.
6,000.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Small big pit reel.
Yeah,
I use them for distance piking.
Yeah, they're just bomb proof. I think
Yeah,
Akuma as a brand is great.
Apart from that, I tend to use the old bait runners, the 6010s.
Yeah.
They really are bulletproof. I can't get onto these things. They're back to front. The bait runner goes back instead of forward, and the anti-reverse goes to the wrong side. If you're mixing the matching reels on this, you're going.
So you've got 10,000 on there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not casting far.
No.
Pike isn't going to run a long way.
No.
What would you ever fish? Would you be comfortable fishing at 2,500, or is that going to be?
For lure, I would use that for lure fishing.
But you wouldn't use it.
I would go 4,000 minimum.
Why is that?
Just to give you enough. Just give you enough play. And I don't know. It's not something I've done. I've always gone 10,000 or 4,000 for the bigger. Plus, I think possibly with a 2,500, if you're pairing it with a 3 pound test curve rod,
it's not balanced.
Yeah. Whereas if you're pairing that with a lure rod, then that'll be fine.
Apart from that, with a smaller reel, the line's going to come off in smaller coils.
Yeah.
You're not going to so much distance.
And how much braid are you putting on?
I normally, so that one's only half spooled, and then these ones are, I've spooled these ones.
It's not a big one.
It's all right. It's a fish.
It's a fish. Hooked in the lips as well. Bang in. That's what we're here for. Dump him on the mat. Thank you. Not a monster, he'll do. Thank you very much for that. But it proves there's pike in it. Yeah.
I'm filming.
And this is the third one. Or it could be the same one that keeps coming back.
So you're holding it under the chin.
Yep.
So it can't
now
move.
It's just been sliced open again. Oh no. I think it's come out. Yeah, it's in the net. Right. And this is why you should have rubberised nets. This will be a lot easier to get out. Because it's the treble. They're not coming out. I'll just stick him back. There we go. Now we've got one hook it.
And a flick of the tail and he's gone.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a bigger one. Nice fish.
Scissors, I can see. There we go. When everyone's gone home.
Honking fish. So we've got it under the head. Calming it down.
Look at that, bang on with the hooks there. You want to get a picture? Do you want to come in and get this?
Barbless hooks. Nice control.
Did you say birth control?
I'm going to have to edit the sound now. What a great fish.
It's a beauty, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
Absolute stunner. Pleased with that.
It's close to...
Back into the net and then there you go.
How big did the male pike get?
Not much bigger than 8 or 9 pounds. You might get scrape a double.
And can you tell which one's a male and which one's a female?
Mainly just on size, isn't it, usually?
Again. Rolling up the net to keep control.
Already.
It wasn't bothered by
So around in circles in the net.
this lead, as he's casting out, this lead's coming away from the actual trace, so the trace is going out further. You know what I mean? So that area,
And the pike will let you know when it's ready to go. One flick and away she goes.
Down to sulk.
Lovely. Well done. Thank you, Ian.
There we go.
Thank you, Jack.